Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm just making sure everything's set up just before we get into the main webinar. So I'll be presenting information today on migration to Australia. There'll be a lot of detailed information, and at the end of the webinar, I'll be happy to take any questions, and you can actually type those in the bottom of the screen there. If for some reason you have any problems typing questions in, by all means email them through to us, and you can send them via the email on the website, and I'll also give you our email at the end of the webinar. Okay, so I'm going to get straight into the webinar now, and as I said, we'll go through that. If you have any questions, I mean, you're more than welcome to raise the questions during the webinar, but I won't actually look at those questions and answer those questions until the end of the webinar, and I'll be happy to go through any questions we have then. Okay, so let's actually get into the main material now. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see that okay. Oh, just make sure that's nice and centered. Okay. Okay. Just bear with me for a sec. Okay, so that looks good. Okay. Okay, I don't think you're getting the update there, so just bear with me for a sec. Sorry about this, people. Just give me a moment and I'll just make sure everything's okay. Okay, let's start again. Okay, I think we're all set to go now. So just to start things off, we are NZD Migration. We are a company based in Singapore, and we do migration to Australia and New Zealand. We've been operating in Singapore since the year 2003. I do emphasize that we only do migration to Australia and New Zealand, and it's very, very important to emphasize that because both myself and my colleague Wilson are registered and licensed advisors for both Australia and New Zealand, which means we're qualified and registered and licensed to provide immigration advice for these countries. Unfortunately, in Singapore, there's a lot of people providing immigration advice that are not registered to do so. So anytime you do meet with someone and get immigration advice for Australia or New Zealand, you want to make sure that the person is registered and licensed to provide that advice, because it's not the company that is registered to provide the advice, it's the individual. For example, if you're going to an accountant to get taxation advice, you have to make sure that accountant is qualified. It's not the company, it's the accountant themselves that have to be qualified to provide that advice. So we're very strict. We only provide advice where we're qualified and registered to provide that advice. Now, if you are meeting with someone, as I said, make sure they are registered, and the easiest way is to look at a certificate like this. If you go and meet with someone who claims to be a registered migration agent for Australia, this certificate will be on display in the meeting room, and will have their name, it will have their photo and their details. You must be able to see this. You don't have to ask to see it. It must always be on display. So if you're meeting with someone and they don't have a certificate like this with their photo and name on it, then they are not a registered agent. And I can tell you the majority of people in Singapore providing immigration advice are not registered migration agents. If they're in Australia, they would go to jail. It's a serious criminal offence, but Australia can't control what happens in Singapore, unfortunately. In terms of our office, we are in the city. This is our location. So we're just near Funan. We're kind of between Clarke Quay MRT and City Hall MRT. So quite central location, which makes it very easy if you need to drop any documents off to us. Now, my name is James. I'm the owner and director of the company. And I've been doing immigration now since the year 2003. My background before I got into immigration was in the ICT industry. So I was previously a PMI certified project manager and working with IBM in the ICT industry. That was my own background. And I started doing immigration in the year 2003. Now, these are the things we're going to talk about today. The focus is on skilled migration. And there's a few reasons why we look at skilled migration as a primary pathway. But one of the biggest reasons is that it doesn't require you to have a job offer in Australia. So it actually allows you to go down to Australia and land there as a permanent resident without actually requiring a job waiting for you. And that's one of the big differences with PR in Australia versus many other countries like Singapore. The other thing that often comes up as a misconception, especially given the Singapore environment, is the difference between PR benefits and citizen benefits. Now, in countries like Singapore, the government has a very strong push to encourage people to become citizens. In Australia, they don't push you to become a citizen, and the rights and benefits you get as a PR holder are very, very similar and essentially the same as what you get as a citizen. So the big differences really are a PR holder doesn't get an Australian passport, obviously, and they can't vote. But in terms of other benefits, subsidies, and so on, they're essentially the same between PRs and citizen. Okay. Now, some of these benefits I've got listed here, and they include things like free public healthcare, social security. We have a wide range of social security benefits in Australia, and they include unemployment benefits, pensions. For example, in Australia, if you get to retirement age and you don't have sufficient funds to be able to look after yourself, the government will actually give you a pension so you can be able to support yourself. The same as if you become unemployed, the government will give you an allowance, and that will help you cover your rent, your bills, and so on until you find further work. Free education in government schools, so primary and secondary school education is free of charge. And sorry, can you just excuse me for a moment, people? I'm just going to stop this for a moment.